Welcome, martial artists. This video from Willow Martial Arts in St. Louis reviews how to do the 13-step Jo, the 4-foot staff weapon. We're going to be dividing this video up into several parts. First, we'll review a bit of the history, why we use the Jo these days, safety, and some basic techniques on standing and moving with the Jo. Secondly, I will demonstrate the specific 13 steps of the Jo to show you where they are, and those steps go along with the written sheet that is on our website, willowmartialarts.com. Thirdly, we will go through the individual techniques, since this is the basic form for the Jo, carefully breaking down each technique into its component parts, seeing it from the front and from the side to help you assure that you've got everything exactly correctly. And last but not least, we will then do the form in the 4 separate directions: front, both sides, and from the back. So you can hopefully see each technique performed in a full 360-degree view. So please visit the website for further information about the Jo form. The Jo, this 4-foot staff, is a fairly new weapon in the tradition of Asia. Many of the staff weapons will go back over 1,000 years. But according to legend, the Jo was discovered in 1605. The legend states that the famous staff weapons expert Muzo Gonosuke challenged the great swordsman Minamoto Musashi to a duel. Minamoto Musashi, however, quickly subdued Muzo Gonosuke, who was humiliated and overwhelmed as he had never lost a fight prior to that. He retreated into the mountains to a place called Mount Homon in a Shinto shrine and took himself away to a cave, according to the legend, where he meditated day after day. And in a dream, it is said, this weapon came to him as a way to be an effective fighter against the sword, even of a great expert like Minamoto. He went and he developed the techniques involving the Jo, and finally, in a martial arts fashion, with perseverance and indomitable spirit, he went back and re-challenged Minamoto to a duel, and this time, according to legend, defeated him. They, with great respect, departed from each other at that time. And then the Jo has come down to us as a weapon. Now, why then are we still studying the Jo? We have so many martial arts weapons from which we can choose, even the traditional ones, the sword, the nunchucks, and it goes on and on. However, on a day-to-day basis, if we are defending ourselves, the traditional martial arts weapons are not available to us. Staff weapons are, whether it is the 4-foot Jo or the 6-foot bow, a broomstick, a branch on the ground, or many other items serve as a good option for doing this. Even the Goju-Shori weapon, the cane, is handled in a similar way to a staff weapon. So, from a self-defense standpoint, these are very available weapons, and it gives us new techniques to use as a martial artist. Safety is our primary concern always as we practice martial artists. Safety for ourselves, but even more importantly, the most important person in the room is our student with whom we're practicing. So as we work with any weapon, we first assure that there is a full amount of room around us by taking the weapon and assuring in all directions that there is no one near us that might potentially come in contact with the weapon. Secondly, it is our responsibility to maintain control of the weapon at all times. And we do this by maintaining a firm grip on our staff weapon. Now, how do we do that? Very simply. It's keeping the thumb and the index finger together, fully wrapped around that weapon, and that assures that we have full control of that weapon at all times. If, for some reason, that weapon should leave your hand and strike the floor, it is our tradition and a wise thing to do to immediately drop down and do 10 push-ups. This is not punishment, it is simply allowing us to refocus our attention into the moment. Now, Joes are easily available. This is a nice bamboo Joe. It's about 7/8 of an inch in diameter. If you notice, it is straight on the ends. It's not tapered as some bows are. And you can certainly go out on the internet or talk with your schoolmaster about getting a Joe if you particularly like one. Perhaps the simplest way, however, to do that is to go to your local big box store, and a wooden dowel, a dowel just being a round piece of wood, typically comes in 4-foot lengths in all sorts of different sizes. Depending on your hand size, you may go anywhere from 3/4 of an inch up to 1 inch in diameter so that you can maintain a good grip on that. It's very inexpensive, only costs a few dollars. And that's an easy way to begin studying the Joe. How do we place it when we're not using it? We place it flat on the floor next to the wall, immediately next to the wall, so that it doesn't get damaged by someone stepping on it, nor is someone injured by stepping on it too. So the Joe is a very practical weapon, has a very fascinating history. They're easy to obtain at your local home improvement stores, and it's a great way to add to your martial arts practice, which is a lot more work in the upper body. The other interesting thing about the Joe is, for its size, it's designed to be used both close in and longer out. It combines the techniques of the sword, of the bow, and many of our other martial arts weapons. So it's a very versatile option for you too. So practice safely, enjoy the history of the Joe. The next thing we're going to be doing is reviewing some of the basic techniques of the use of the Joe so that we'll be ready to begin our Joe practice. As we're carrying the Joe, again for safety, we carry it in the right hand, held in the middle, firm, tucked behind our right shoulder. As we do our bow in, here we bring our feet together for Chariat, Kyongye. And then we can come back to Junbi. Our start position as we begin our exercise and our form with the Joe is in a modified back stance. The Joe today often comes from the Aikido tradition. And the stances and some of the other moves are reflective of that tradition. As we begin our initial stance, we're in a modified back stance. In Taekwondo, typically, our feet are along the same line, front toes pointing directly ahead, our back toes pointing to the side wall, both knees bent. Here, it's a bit modified, so those back toes may be out at a 45-degree angle rather than a 90-degree angle. We grip the Joe about 6 inches from the top with our left hand. The Joe is put on the floor directly in front of our left big toe, about 6 inches. And we are now ready to begin to practice our form. Now, the great thing about this is The Joe as a walking stick is just the right size. And how are we going to be typically as we begin any action? If we're using a walking stick, it's going to be on the ground in front of us. So it's a very practical way to begin our form. The Aikido tradition provides 3 basic ideas that are important for our practice. One is circular movements. Nice flow. And you will see this over and over again, bringing the Jo around in a nice circle. Secondly, it's relaxation and softness of movement. As we know, when we're punching, we begin relaxed. Our body should be relaxed because relaxed muscles move more quickly. It also has the advantage when we're performing our forms or whatever activity we're doing, if our muscles are relaxed, we have more endurance. They're not using energy. So we have a greater endurance because of that. Thirdly, as with a punch, it begins relaxed for speed, but it ends with tightening at the end to deliver the power to the strike itself. So circular movements, relaxation, ending with tension and transfer of power. So with those ideas in mind, we're ready to begin learning the basic 13-step Jo form. The 13-step Jo form is a basic front and back form fighting 2 imaginary partners. As with any form we do, if we do it properly, those partners will be real to anybody watching this action. Meaning in particular that if we strike something like the head, we're stopping where the head should be. We are fighting our identical twin. Same size, same shape. So we should be stopping at the shoulders, the head, the body, as if there is a real person there. So as we begin our 13-step form, we're going to be fighting somebody to the front and someone to the back. I'm going to show and count out those 13 steps. These are the same way that they're designated on the written instructions on our website, willowmartialarts.com. If you notice on the floor, there is this nice red stripe here. That is what we call the line of attack. This is a direct line between you and the attacker. As with any martial arts action that we take in self-defense, one of our first things to do is to get out of the line of attack. And you will see as we do the form, we'll be moving back and forth across the line of attack to avoid those blows. So let's begin the 13-step Jo form as I count out the individual moves. Cheerio! We begin in standard position as we're attacked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now let's go over the individual techniques used in the 13-step Jo form. And I'll break these down and show the flow in between each individual part. So hopefully that will give you a very clear and precise understanding of each individual move. I'll be doing it from the front and the back. Try to get in every direction to make sure that it's fully visible. We've already talked about how we begin. And let me show you from the side how that looks. Again, I have about 6 inches from the top of the jo from my left hand. I'm in this relaxed back stance. And the first thing I do is lift that jo straight up in the air, and I rotate that left hand just to bring that jo back to my right hand, which is at my side. I'm being attacked by a thrust from the attacker, so I slide forward with my left foot across the line of attack and bring my right foot back, so I am actually facing my attacker. And I'm going to do a thrust. By opening up my front hand, I use that to guide the motion and pushing that jo through. I'm attacking the throat and the upper chest. So I've knocked that attacker back a little bit. So after that thrust, I'm going to counterattack. As always, when we're practicing new items and forms, we like to move our feet first and then perform the hand technique. Over time, as we get more confident, we combine the two. So the first thing I'm going to do is step forward with my right foot across that line of attack. I point my toes towards the attacker. My left foot comes back into that modified back stance. And now I'm going to do a collar strike to their left side. So my left hand comes off. I do that nice circular move around with the jo in my right hand, and as it's coming around, I re-grab it in a baseball bat grip and come down at a 45-degree angle, striking that collarbone. So let's do those techniques from the front position as we walk through the first few steps. First, lift that jo straight up. Rotate that left hand to bring the jo back to the right hand. We step forward and across the front line with the left foot. Bring the right foot back into that modified back stance. I'm facing directly towards the attacker, and I thrust to the neck or chest. The next thing I do is step across the midline with my right foot, bring that left foot behind, and now we do the strike to the opponent's left shoulder by letting go with the left hand. Nice circular move, re-grabbing with a baseball bat grip, coming down at a 45-degree angle. Again, it's coming back here into the neck, the collarbone, and the side of the head. Next, I parry the attacker's thrust by stepping back in the midline in that modified back stance. I start moving the jo down and out as I grab their jo and push it to the side. And as I do that, I open my right hand. The jo is in the V between the thumb and the first finger. And I bring that up as my left hand comes up high to protect me from behind. The jo is knocked out of the way. And I then bring the jo down to the side, step forward, and I do a thrust. This time the left hand pushes, the right hand guides. So now we'll be working on that turnaround. I've finished up the front attacker. Now I have to get the back attack person. I've just finished that thrust, and we're going to take this in two separate parts. First of all, we're going to move our feet, then we're going to move our hands. We're going to be turning around a half turn. So I step forward with my left foot, turn a quarter turn to the right, and then bring my right foot around back as I finish another quarter turn to the right to face the back wall. As I'm doing that, I'm also moving my Jo. Now I've just finished the thrust, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to show from the side here, is I move that right hand forward to about 6 inches from the end. My left hand comes up to that hand. And as I'm doing that turnaround, what I'm going to be doing is bringing this up to strike the side of the head. So we're going to, from this position, you may find it easier to move the hands first to get them in position, which I will do here, and bring up my left hand, step forward with my left foot for a quarter turn to the right, then my right foot for another quarter turn, and as I'm doing this, I simply bring the Jo around directly in front of me to strike the side of the head. So let's do that from the back. So I move my hands up, I step left foot forward, right foot, and then swing this around. Let's do that from the side to make it a little clearer. I'm going to do it from this side because I think it may be easier for you to see. So we finished our thrust. So we move our hand, right hand forward, our left hand forward. We step forward with our right foot, quarter turn to the right, right foot again, quarter turn to the right, and then bring the Jo around, strike the side of the head. The next move, which we're going to take from here, is we're going to counterattack again. I'm going to let go with my left hand and let gravity just swing the tip of the Jo down and up, 3/4 of a turn. See, I'm still holding on with my right hand, and I'm going to move in to show you what we do. With that, my thumb is pointing down. I reach down and I grab with my left hand, thumb up. The right hand opens up, twists around the back. Doesn't let go of the Jo, it stays right on top and regrips in a baseball bat grip. So, again, we've done here. We've let go with the front hand, comes up. We regrip with the left hand, turn over our right hand. We step across the line of attack with our right foot, bring our left foot back, and we bring the Jo down into the left shoulder for a strike. From the front, again, we've stepped forward, strike, let go with the left hand, right hand comes straight up. We regrip with the left hand, turn the right hand over, step across the line of attack, and bring it down to strike the left shoulder. After striking the left shoulder, we're going to be turning on our front right foot to the left, and our left foot's going to become our new back foot. We just turn in place. The Jo just stays in front as we knock out our opponent's Jo as they try to thrust. So let me turn around to front so you can see those moves better. I've turned around. I pull that jo back again to my waist. My right hand is now up in front to guide. I step forward in that back stance and I thrust. I pull that jo back and I'm being attacked from behind. Step back, and now my left hand guides my backward thrust as I push back with my right hand. This is to the knee or to the groin. I again step forward with my left foot, bring it up, hit the side of the head, I pull it back into the face. The person naturally is going to try to guard by pulling their jo up. So I step back a little bit, I let go with my right hand, and I spin my jo over and knock their jo out of their hand. So let me show you that technique from the side. So I've just come back, I've hit the side of their head, I pull it back, hit their face, let go with my right hand as I step back, my jo knocks their jo out of their hand. I pull this back, step forward, thrust to finish the form. Then I come back into our basic Jumbi stance, pull my left hand up to the front about 6 inches, replace it in front of my right big toe. Now how do I get back to a Jumbi stance? 2 possible ways. The basic way is I lift this up and rotate it up again, but I grab this time, my right hand grabs the middle of the jo. I bring my left foot back into Jumbi position, Chariot, Kyungye. If you want to have a little more flash in what you do, this is grabbing from the top, on top of the jo, and it makes half a turn. So it goes here, here, here. If, on the other hand, I bring it up and I grab it from below, I give it an extra twist. So the basic technique, grabbing from the top, bringing it in the back of your shoulder. Fancier technique is bringing it up, catching it below, and bringing it behind your shoulder as you come back to Jumbi. So we've gone over each of the individual steps to show you exactly how they're done and hopefully why you're doing them in that particular sequence. Again, more information is available in the handout at willowmartialarts.com. In the next section, I'm going to show you the technique done from all 4 directions. In this section, we're going to perform the 13-step jo technique in all 4 directions. Initially to the front, as you would see it in the presentation, then heading to the left, to the right, and finally facing the back direction. That way, I hope that you will be able to see each and every move in its entirety between the 4 different ways that we approach the form. To begin from the front, we begin in the start position. Next, I will perform the 13-step Jo form going towards my left. Next, I will perform the 13-step Jo form going towards my right. The final direction will be the 13-step Jo form performed to the back. Thank you for joining me today to review the 13-step Jo form. Hope it's been very helpful, and just a reminder that there are written instructions and more details on our website, willowmartialarts.com. Enjoy your martial arts.